Hello, everyone, and welcome to our latest save of the FM24 era. This is going to be one of our two main saves that's going to carry us through the entire year. Obviously, so far you guys have seen the first little bit of content, which includes our Union Berlin save as well as a tactic test we've already done. We're going to have loads more of those, rebuilds, as well as our main saves running throughout the whole year, giving you guys a shit ton of content to take care of and look at and just enjoy yourselves watching through. So, one of the coolest things we have is a team today named Wacker Innsbruck. I believe that's the right way to say it. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I do not speak Austrian and German. I don't know what they speak in this region, but to me that is what seems like the right definition. Club itself, crazy history, have had highs, have had lows, and I just think it's right that we do everything we can to bring this team back to the top and get them back to the Bundesliga where they belong and really help get them out of this massive rut they're in right now. So I'm first going to go through the history of the team, talk a little bit about who they are, what has happened, how they have existed, their chaotic history of existing and folding and re-existing and not existing, and it's chaos and it's crazy, and it just makes it even more interesting in why I want to do this club so much. So I'm going to talk through a little bit of that. We're going to talk through the squad, talk through the stuff we're looking forward to this season, what we're going to look to do, things we're going to try to institute come the future, how we're going to play, all these things like that. And once we've done that, we'll then finish up, and that will be your episode 1, your intro into the team, and then hopefully episode 2 we can play our first game. Let's do something like that. We can really actually get to see what the team is like, get a understanding of how things go, and I think have a really awesome save lined up and get things just chugging down the line. But first, we're going to start with the history of the club, talking a little bit about that before going into everything else. So I'll hand it over to myself while I go through the history. So, Wacker Innsbruck is truly the story of a club that really could never be killed. No matter how bad the finances have gotten, no matter what is going on at the club, they always have been able to come back in one form or another. And it really is kind of the story of the club, and where they are today really epitomizes that. Now, the club first started off playing in 1915 being called FC Wacker Innsbruck, and it was created by a group of just football enthusiasts who love to kick the ball around and play and have a nice time. And they ended up playing friendlies together, continuing until World War I broke out. The club then went on an indefinite hiatus, like many did during the wartime, and the hiatus ended up ending in 1918. And then another one did ensue during World War II as well, when they went on hiatus again. Now, the club continued to play games after World War II, and in essence became pretty famous because of this black and green kit they used to wear. That led to them just continuing playing, kind of gaining a little more fame, and it led to them actually even being promoted to the original Austrian Bundesliga. And it was kind of crazy, like the fact they got promoted there. They're just a team that started friendlies and really had this humble rise from nobodies to somebodies. And after 7 years in the top flight, they claimed their first title ever in 1971, which is just insane, but also really cool to have a club that started off so early winning silverware in their existence. Then a few months later on, a fellow team by the name of SV Wattens in the Austrian First Division decided to merge, and they formed a single team, which ended up being called SPG Savorsky Wattens Innsbruck. SSW Innsbruck, for short, was their nickname. This was done since both teams played in the region of Tirol, and they wanted to create one team to improve the quality of football in the region, as they felt having two ended up pulling players from different regions, pulling players from the same region and hurting each other. So they thought combining their efforts would be much better. What is interesting, though, about this merger is that the youth sides did stay the same. So they had, in essence, they had more youth coverage by having two separate entities and then just one kind of connected first team. What really did actually come out of this, though, was brilliant, because it was super successful, this merger. The team went on to win the Austrian Championship 5 more times and even reached the quarterfinals of the European Cup in 1977 and 78. So absolutely smashed it together and really became a force in Austrian football. But once the 1980s started to roll around, everything started to go downhill. In 1981, the club was relegated for the first time, and in 1986, the club was then renamed back to FC Wacker Innsbruck. So it's almost like the merger never happened. And then the in essence, that they got renamed and then they filed for bankruptcy and were no longer able to play in the league. That following in 1986 after being renamed. Then a new team was formed called FC Wacker Tirol, purchased the club's license, meaning that Wacker Innsbruck, who did manage to get their shit sorted out, was then forced down into the 8th tier of the Austrian league. The team that is known as FC Wacker Innsbruck, so that's us, the team we are, was then managed to gain 4 promotions in 6 years, getting to the 4th tier by 1992. In that same year, 1992, that they got promoted, FC Wacker Tirol, the club that bought their license when they were in financial troubles, was dissolved due to financial issues. And then Wacker Innsbruck bought their license off them and got promoted all the way to the 1st tier from the 4th tier. So the 5th tier, they won promotion in the 5th tier and then went straight to the 1st tier that next season. This meant they could play for 1 season and even compete in the UEFA Cup, which Wacker Tirol had qualified for the season before. So it's just utter chaos. Then, in 1993, FC Tirol Innsbruck was formed, and kind of like as a new team for the area, and took over Wacker Innsbruck's license, right? Sending Wacker Innsbruck, who have now gone from the 2nd tier to the 8th tier, to the 1st tier, now all the way back to the 8th tier. This time, though, it was too much, and Innsbruck's chaotic jumping up and down and craziness led to them folding 6 years later in 1999 while playing in the 7th tier. What's interesting, though, is that after Innsbruck had lost their license, FC Tirol Innsbruck became kind of their successor. So even though Wacker was sent to the 8th tier that time, the new club that was formed, FC Tirol Innsbruck, became kind of known as the Wacker Innsbruck's the Division 1 version successor. This actually worked out really well for the fans, as FC Tirol went on to be a super successful team again, kind of continuing this trend of success for them. The team only existed from 1993 to 2002, but in that time, they finished no lower than 6th. They won 3 more leagues in 99-2000, 2000-2001, and 2001-2002. So 3 straight years they won the league. They even went on to have success in Europe, beating Fiorentina, Ferencváros, and a few other teams, but at the time those are kind of the bigger ones, especially with Italian football in the 90s. But then in 2002, while the team was being managed by Joachim Low, which is pretty cool, and after they just won their 3rd straight, the team became embroiled in financial issues and was then unable to purchase their license for the next season. So the club was then dissolved, which is just continuous chaotic craziness of finances with this team. So then that Tirol Innsbruck was dissolved. Then that led to the current iteration of what is Wacker Innsbruck now to be created. That club was formed in June 2002. And FC Wacker Tirol, who played their home games at the current stadium, in essence, the current iteration of Wacker Innsbruck was formed in 2002 as FC Wacker Tirol, and plays their games at the current Wacker Innsbruck stadium. The club themselves, the FC Wacker Tirol, were what they called the successors of FC Tirol Innsbruck, though they were not able to purchase that exact license, meaning they are actually not allowed to claim their history according to the Austrian Bundesliga rules, but all the fans became fans of this new team, so technically the fan base is carried over, but not the actual successes, though they are recognized for having those successes. I don't get it. This is what I read and this is what I understood. It's a little confusing to me, but that's kind of what I took from what I read. So the club continued to be the spiritual successor, and in honor of their heritage, Wacker Tirol ended up renaming themselves to Wacker Innsbruck in 2007. But obviously they had been unable to claim the honors won by their predecessors, so they still are this there's this secondary club, which is fan base wise but not otherwise, so it's kind of weird. But the new Wacker Innsbruck, who we currently are going to be, had a swift rise to the Bundesliga. They made it there really, really quick. So 2 seasons after being formed, they made it there. Thankfully, though, this was kind of due to some good affiliations they had, especially with the third division side Watton. So if you guys remember, was the old club that was formed after that they merged with, and that club was then a new version of that club was formed later on. That was the team that they had the youth partnership with, the first team partnership with, in separate youth teams. So that helped them fly up the divisions. Also allowed them to start in third tier, which is pretty easy. Once the team did reach the Bundesliga, though, there wasn't too much help, but still, they kind of flew up the division thanks to the assistance of the players they had. The team did go on to be pretty consistent, going 6th, 7th, 9th, and 10th in their first 4 seasons. But the problem is that when there's not only 10 teams in the league, you're kind of going to get relegated. So the club did get sent down while finishing 10th in that season, but they only lasted 2 and made it right back to the Bundesliga. Unfortunately, this next stay would only last 3 years, and they were relegated out of the second tier in 2014. They did make it back to the Bundesliga again in 2018-19, but only lasted 1 year where they were sent straight back down. So that kind of does suck. Though things have not been as smooth. The club finished 6th, 4th, 9th in 2022. Finally 9th in 2022. Now, the Austrian league has had a whole reshift in the way it's done. And because of that, the club got kind of screwed in the reshuffle and was sent all the way down to what is now the 5th tier, I believe. I wrote down the name of the division. We currently play in, I'm going to butcher the absolute hell out of this. It is the 5th tier. The Osterenheich Unterling. I don't think I've said that at all correctly. But the 5th tier, it's the 5th tier of Austrian football, is what it is. So they were sent all the way down there. And it's pretty much insane. They've all the way sent back down the bottom now, and they're down there again. So we're not the 8th tier, but the 5th tier this time. And now we're taking over, and we're bringing them back. We are starting this Wacker Innsbruck success story of going all the way down and all the way back up again. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to buy any licenses, but this is our version of the story of going all the way down and all the way back up in this chaotic craziness of a team. So we're now taking charge, and our goal is to get back to the first division first of all, but then it's to make it into European competition, as well as finally win a trophy as this team to be able to add them to the great Wacker Innsbruck sides. Because right now this team technically doesn't really have any history, though we are kind of given the history in FM. But we really technically don't have any history of our own. So I want to create our history. I want to get us our own first division title and add ourselves to the successful Wacker Innsbruck teams that have managed to do that. And European football would be great when the first club's first ever European honor. I don't think we'll do that, but you know what? We can try, and we'll see how it goes. So I hope you guys are excited for this. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. And with that being said, I think we might as well go through the team, talk about some of the stuff that we have, and we'll see how we're feeling for this first season in charge of Wacker Innsbruck. Alright guys, we are here. We are finally at this team. And it is time to go through and really talk about who we are, what we have. And as you guys can see, we talked about our craziness of a drop-off and all this chaos that this team has experienced, the ups and the downs, and you can see it really quite clearly here. You can also see that we do have the all the various lower league titles. You can see we do have the history and the cups and things like that as well that we have won. So they've won some second divisions, they've won some cups, and they have won some first division titles, as you guys do remember. So there is history there. They've also done the 3-peat before. If we could do a 4-peat, that'd be awesome, or maybe 5. But you can also see all the famous players they had over the years, and tons of them are still actually involved in coaching and things like that. So hopefully we can get some of them in. I know I'm going to add a ton of them to a staff shortlist, and we can try to get some club favorites in. I always love doing that. I always love getting club favorites back in and all these people like that. Obviously, here is our stadium. Lovely, lovely stadium. Again, this is also supposed to be for a second division or a first division side, so it's pretty a big stadium, and it's not going to be helping us financially. You can still have some really good facilities. like 12, 14, 14, 12, 13. So some really good facilities still. We still have a pretty high reputation, so we can definitely attract some players. So there is some great stuff we have, and we are going to be able to get some stuff. We do need to improve our youth recruitment and coaching, but the facilities we have are great, meaning we can really improve and grow some of these players, which is fantastic. I wasn't able to find some kits, which sucks, but we do have our awesome badge. I do kind of like it. We have the history of who we played. We do not have loads of money, but we've made a decent amount so far this season, and we're under payroll, so we do have a little bit of stuff to work with, which is nice to see. And on top of that, we do have a little money in the bank, so not terribly hurt financially, which is always a good thing. On top of that, though, we do have some pretty big rivalries. We have, obviously, everyone's fucking most hated club, and this bald-headed bastard and horrible coach. That's coming from a New York Red Bulls fan. But, obviously, we do hate Salzburg, which is great, because who doesn't hate Salzburg? We also don't like Austria Salzburg, who are the Phoenix club of RB Salzburg, which is pretty funny. So we don't like them either. There's also this team. I don't really know who they are, but they're another rival. We'll face off against them. Here's another one too. We have a few more rivals. Again, don't really know who these guys are, but they're in the second division, so they're not bad. And we also have against Rapid as well as Austria Vienna. So we have some first division sides that we do not really like, and we do have obviously these two derbies against these guys. So it's going to be interesting for sure to see what kind of happens and how that kind of works out. So sorry, where am I looking? Facts. No, actually I don't think we'll go through that much, but in terms of affiliate clubs, we do have a few. We obviously have our affiliate, just as like our basic academy team, like our whatchamacallit team, like youth team, so an amateur side that we can send players on loan to so they can play and all this stuff like that. We also have this team as well, which is a local partnership with a local side that has players. So we'll obviously be scouting and looking at them. They do have some really good facilities and stuff as well, which is nice to see. We also have a one for LAFC in terms of financials. So we are able to LAFC are able to send us players, which is pretty cool. So they have first option on purchases. So is long term in essence, the merchandising sales, share scouting networks, and we can get players from them, which is awesome. So we'll have to look at them as a team that we can try to bring players in from and get people from, because that's something we really got to abuse, especially LAFC and MLS. They're going to have some good quality players. So obviously, I don't know if we can get them now, but you'll see. I think we might have a chance with some of the players we already have in on loan. It shows that we can have some pulling power. So see how it goes, but it's one we will definitely look to abuse, especially with wrong times of seasons. It'll be great to be able to get some of those players in. So that's really fantastic, and I'm really happy to see that. We do have a hot prospect already, who I've already called up into the first team because I think he's going to be good, and I think there's a big chance he can contribute this year as a backup. But I like the look of him so far. There's some good stuff here, and I really like his I really like his determination so far. The only thing I don't like is that he's a volatile media person. And he argues with officials, which isn't great. So there's some definitely hot-headedness in him, which you don't always love, but isn't a very high aggression, so we might be okay. But yes, we have a few of those guys in. In terms of the tactics, which I think we'll go through now, this is our setup for this season. This is how I think we're going to play, what we're going to do. This is pretty much our team. We have a few key players, which I'll go through. But we're going to be playing a pretty simple 4-2-3-1. We have an inverted fullback here, as we don't really have many good left back options, and obviously the transfer window is closed. We're not going to be able to sign anyone, so he's pretty much our best left back, and for me, I think he's suited best to being an inverted fullback to really help us get this guy forward and have the defensive coverage we need, because at this level, I don't really want to risk having him also go forward. So he's going to tuck in, be defensive here. We have our ball-winning midfielder who can cover this space here, and this guy can get in and attack, which is nice to see. Now, we do have a center midfielder here who's just going to do kind of the work of a box-to-box, but not as serious. Shadow striker who's going to make runs in behind. Our deep line forward is going to drop in and support. Our winger is going to get wide and deal with the width here, and a guy that's going to drive inside and make runs in behind the deep line forward, as we have our player overlap him as well. So pretty basic, pretty simple. Get the ball, pass quickly to get it forwards, be direct with your play, shoot and score. High line aggressive, countering. When we lose the ball, we counter quickly. When we get the ball, we counter fast. And then in possession, we go really quick, and we have shortened the spaces a bit to make it easier for our players to connect passes. It's very basic, very simple system. Now, we do have some more advanced systems that are going to come as we progress up the leagues and up the divisions. But for right now, they're more stuff that we have for later on, and we don't really have to worry about as much, because to me, I don't think there's any point in worrying about it, since there isn't really very high level players yet. But they're for the future. I'll put it that way. They're future tactics that will do stuff. But yeah, this is it. As you can see, pretty strong through the narrow center, which is why we're playing more aggressively through the center. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy with it. I think it's going to work really well, and it's pretty basic, so we don't have to worry too much, as you guys will see when we look at some of the key players. So I'd say we have a few key players here. For me, the four key players, I'd say, are going to be Lacazette, Yilmaz, Francis, and then Tauber. So our goalkeeper we'll start with first. I think he's a pretty damn good-looking goalkeeper. Obviously for this level, he's a good Landesliga player, which I think is the division above us, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so it's the division above us. So he's good enough to play in the division above us, which is really nice to see. So he's really good. I think he's, for what he is, he looks pretty solid. He's 6'2", he looks decent, and I'm really happy with it. I mean, he's not very good overall, but for this level, he looks really good, and is going to be a great use to us. So that's good to see. Lacazette is the brother of Alexander Lacazette, which is pretty crazy. He's good enough for the division above us, and he looks great as ball-winning midfielder. He can also help out that center mid role and support, since he is able to play box-to-box. But to me, he suits this role really well. Super aggressive, super strong tackler. And I think he can really make a big difference for us in this team, playing as the ball-winning midfielder, really being the aggressor in midfield to help break things up and do a lot. So I'm excited to have him. I think he's fantastic looking, and I think he'll be a really, really good asset to us. Now, Yilmaz is probably going to be our star boy up front. I think he's going to bang in the goals. He's already banged in the goals for the second team. He's never scored for the first team, but he looks like a player to me that can be banging in the goals. He's a pretty damn good player, and I think he can improve even more if at 25 at this level already. Obviously not the best player overall, but for this level, I'm psyched. I'm happy. He's got a lot of good enough qualities where he's pretty decent in a lot of stuff, and that's kind of the big thing right now. I mean, the passing is really big for me, which is why he's going to be playing as a deeper forward. He can really connect and create stuff. Finishing isn't amazing, but you know what? The teamwork, the off the ball, the work rate, there are things I want to see. He's got pretty damn good physicals, and he's two-footed, so there's a lot that I like about him, and I'm really excited for. And finally, Daniel Francis. He is on loan from Bayern Munich. I don't know how. I don't know what we've done, but to me, he is a perfect center midfielder on support. He's not a perfect box-to-box, but he's like a pseudo as a center midfielder. Now, mentals, not the best, but technicals, they're there. Physicals, not really, but technicals, they're there. And I'm hoping that his poor other stats here are made up for his technicals, and his decision-making, for me, which is the good one, as well as the work rate, are going to help him a lot. And hopefully they do. But he looks like a great player, and he's got a lot of potential. And I don't know if Bayern Munich are going to do with him, what they're going to let happen to him, but if he does kind of walk at the end of his deal, or not too much happens, I think there's a player that we could maybe try to get after and do something with. But no, to me, he seems great, and he's a really good option for us. So obviously concentration is an issue, but you know, to me, he's someone that I'm excited for, and I think he'll be very, very useful in the future. So that's going over the players and our tactics. In terms of staff, we have some really good first team staff. I have a few guys coming in who I'll show you soon, but we're really well equipped for the first team staff we currently have, which is great to see. I may be going through and adjusting some of our staff just because my assistant coach doesn't play a similar style to me, doesn't have the same mentality, so I don't really know what I want to do. But obviously we do have some staff here that was already abundant, and people like that, I didn't choose them, so we'll see. I might change things up, but I'll figure things out. So we do have a few people here and there, but we'll see what happens. If we look at the people I'm bringing in, new chief scout, new scout, as well as some people for the U18 teams in terms of a physio, head coach, and assistant coach who will help our U18s do well. Now, in terms of development center, in terms of our kind of top players, we have a fullback here who looks to be really high quality player with some good future potential. To me, I'm not really certain on what he is. He could be a wingback, but I don't really think so with some of his other stats. But to me, he suits fullback on attack really, really well. So I think that's kind of a role that could suit him quite well, using his work rate and his fitness to get forwards. But we'll see. I don't know. He might get involved in the team. He's still 17. He's got some time, so I'm going to let him do his stuff. But there's something there for sure. We also have another young center back, which is good. 6'4", but he's not very good in the air, which is not great. And then we have another young striker as well. So we'll see. He's got some good stats, which I am liking, but there's also some other really, really poor technicals, which are not great. So we'll see. But there's something there for sure in this kid. So I'm excited to see how he progresses and what we can get out of him. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the team. Our U18 squad's pretty strong, which is nice to see. So there's some strength there. And if our coaches are able to make a good impression and mold them well, I'm really excited for things. Now, in terms of the league itself, we are predicted to finish first place. So without winning, I'm going to be pretty annoyed. But we have some players already. We have Lacazette, we have Francis, we have Yilmaz, and we have Tauber. So there's some players in the team. Hopefully, we can try to use the LAFC connection, some other people like that, to bring in some reinforcements to better help us out in a few areas, because I think right now we're lacking in backup for ball-winning midfielders, and our right wing position is kind of where we're struggling, as well as left back as well, which I think we're kind of right wing and left back. I think are our two biggest issues. So to me, that's kind of the big ones we have to look out for. Now, I do think we have some decent players as well. Stoppatcher looks to be decent. He's pretty versatile, so we can play kind of some roles around. So I'm excited by what he offers. Another player I really like the look of is Takir. I quite like what he has to offer in terms of a lot of his mentals are really good in my opinion. And as a player who's playing a shadow striker role, I'm really looking forward to what he can do. I quite like the look of Scholl as well. Looks pretty solid as a winger here for us. So I'm excited to see what he can do, especially with that dribbling and finishing. Crossing, which was a little better, but there's some good stuff there. And then finally in defense, Walker, I quite like the look of as well. 6'4", strength and pace need to improve heavily, but some of these stats like tackling and heading, marking needs work, same with positioning. But there's already a few here, decision making, that I quite like the look of, and hopefully they can make a bit of a difference. And also does help that he's an ex-Red Bull Academy player, so a little closer to my heart for that on top of it. But no, I really like the look of this team. I think there's a lot to be excited for, a lot to look forward to. We have a few friendlies coming up. I'll obviously try to schedule a few more, but that's pretty much what we're looking forward to, what we have going on. We do have a very, very tough game as we play Hartberg in the first game in the Cup, which I think first episode will be these two here. But no, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. We only have a few weeks before our first game, and I think it's going to be a good one. So hopefully you guys are excited. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to things. I know I am, and I'm looking forward to an awesome time. And yeah, I'll be sure to catch you guys in the next one, where we take on Hartberg and Langenfeld in the second episode of our Wacker Innsbruck save. So it's going to be good. And I'll be sure to catch you guys in the next one.